Oh, it's so hard to have Ed Mylett on for the fourth time. It's just the hardest thing to do.
What a burden.
Thank you. Well, thanks for having me on. I was just saying thank you because I know that's not normal, so I appreciate it.
Ed, you can come and sit here and just be a host and we'll kick Michael off.
Yeah, we're tired, man. You can just take over
I know
for a
you're
bit.
tired. We're
Yeah.
just talking about that. I would love to sit next to your wife and host the show, so you better be a good dude.
Oh, look
Listen,
at that.
Maybe I'll just sit back. Maybe
Like
I'll
a
just,
father-daughter combo, obviously. I would still love to do it.
listen, careful what you wish for. Maybe I need a break. You know,
I think you do.
The power of one more. What's the power of one more?
My new book.
I know, but what is the power of one more? What's in that sentence?
Well, there's a lot of power in it. And the big point of the book, there's a lot of meanings in the book. Obviously, the one more part came from my dad. My dad passed away last year, and I decided to write this book. But in that my dad, there's these themes of one mores throughout his life. So my dad tried to get sober a bunch of times. He was an alcoholic. I'm 15, driving in the car with my dad, and I'm seeing him cry. I never saw him cry after that day or before it. And like I could tell he wanted to tell me something. And finally he leans over, he goes, Eddie, I'm going to go try to stop drinking again. And I said, Dad, what would be different? He goes, I'm going to give it one more try. And I said, why would this be different? He goes, well, your mom told me I'm going to lose the family. So I'm going to lose you. And I think your sisters and you deserve a dad you can be proud of. Your mom deserves a husband she can respect. And he went away and came back and was sober. And then when he got sober, I said, you guys never drink again? He goes, no, I'm just not going to drink for one more day at a time. And then when I was a kid, I had all these dreams. My dad was not a dreamer, dude. I said, Dad, there's no way I can ever do this. My dad would go, you're a lot closer to your dreams than you think you are. You're one decision away, one relationship away, one meeting away, one thought, one emotion. And I'm like, gosh, he's right. And everyone listen to this, same thing for them in their life. They keep thinking their vision for their life is like infinitely far away. So they act in accordance with that belief system. And so it perpetually stays there. But what if the truth was the progress towards that is actually one decision, one meeting, one relationship, right? One new thought, one new podcast away from completely changing your life. And I'm a living proof of the stacking of those one more. So that's the power of doing one more.
If you could give an example of someone else besides your dad that you've seen this work on, what would that be? Maybe in the business space.
Yeah, I just had this happen. This is the most extreme one of all time, right? So like 3 weeks ago, I belong to this club that you guys know, this golf club, and there's a lot of very high profile people there. And friends of mine are like, you got to get together with this dude. Your net worths are similar. He's a fan of yours. Go play golf with this guy. And I'd seen the dude from a distance. I'm like, I don't think he's my kind of guy. So I finally agreed to do it because someone canceled. I go to the first tee. He goes, oh, Ed Mylett, 5 hours. I'm going to learn everything from you.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
I go, that ain't how it's going to work, bro. I already know about my story. I want to know yours. And he goes, we can just do it here on the tee box. I said, give it to me. This is true. He goes, 1986, I loaned 50 grand to a guy. My best friend made the same loan to the same guy for 50 grand. A week later, my friend got the money back. He got cold feet. I kept the loan. It turned into $750 million. I went, say that one more time. 86, I loaned the guy 50 grand. It turned into 750 million. Bam, me and you were playing golf today. I said, who the hell did you loan this money to? Jeff Bezos.
Oh,
I said, you gotta be freaking kidding me. I said, so you were legit one decision, one relationship away from a completely different existence on earth. And that's true everywhere. You, man, as much as you guys joke about it, the decision to marry this woman completely changed your life.
Completely.
Right? And so these things are true in our lives. The question is, how do we find them? How do we get them?
Yeah, no, but that's 100% true. I mean, the decision to marry Lauren led to obviously many things, not only just our personal life, family and all that, but led to us even sitting down, doing this together, led to Dear Media, led to me sitting here with you, led to all of these things. Like without that, none of this happens.
Right.
Yeah.
execution is something that I see as the common denominator that people are missing. And the power of one more is about executing.
Mm-hmm.
When you see a lot of people online and they're constantly consuming other people's content and not putting it towards their own side of the street, what would you say to them?
Well, it's a waste of time. And you got to pick a few people, right? Like if you got 100 chefs in the kitchen of your head, you're just going to keep cooking really bad meals. You got to pick 2 or 3 people who you really admire, who you really expect and follow their stuff. But here's the thing. You're going to get your standard long-term. You're probably not going to get your goals. So I have a whole chapter on goal setting, which is a great chapter. I'll show you how to do it better than anybody in the world. But the truth is you probably, if they're real goals, you probably only get like 25% of them at best in your life. But you will ultimately always long-term get your standards. You are always going to get the standard you set for yourself. So the reason that you're struggling so much is, we've talked about this on your show before, you don't have any self-confidence. And the reason you don't have self-confidence is you have a relationship and reputation with yourself where you don't keep the promises you make to you. So then there's the baseline advice we've all heard. You want to change your confidence, keep the promises you make to yourself. And you know what? You can become a confident person. But how do you become superhuman where you can execute at the highest levels like the two of you do in your businesses on the show? Here's what you do. You keep the promises you make to yourself plus one more. So if I'm going to do 30 minutes, the promise is I'm going to work out, I'm going to do 30 minutes. Great. Check the box. I got self-confidence. Do one more. I'm going to make 10 contacts a day. Don't just do 10, do one more. I'm going to do 10 reps on the bench. I'm not going to do 10. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to tell my wife I love her every day. Nope. I'm going to tell her one more time a day. So you start setting this standard because you ultimately will get your standards in your life. Now you start executing very differently than most people. Very, very differently. One little other tidbit is that you got to be able to see things that already exist that you don't see. So the second chapter of the book's called The Matrix. And that chapter is exclusively about the reticular activating system in your brain, which is the filter of your life. It reveals to you what's important to you, so you'll hear things, see things, and feel things that you didn't before. So, for example, like Michael, loud room, 300 people in it, not even auditorily very loud. Someone goes, Michael, you can hear your own name auditorily over everybody else because it matters to you. I just bought a Tesla.
Yeah.
I bought a Tesla today. I bought a Tesla last week. I like what Musk is doing. I'm like, I'm going to buy this Tesla.
I told Lauren, I was like, maybe you should think about a Tesla, Lauren.
Yeah, I know.
Only person that convinced me of a Tesla is Ed Mylett. Hopefully you get an affiliate for that.
I don't have an affiliate, and just not going to lie to you, I wasn't like dying to drive one, but I'm like, all right. And now that I have it, I kind of think it's cool. Now, dude, everywhere I see Teslas, I'm like, babe, red one, white one, 3 lanes over, other side of the road. I just did the other day, babe, black plaid.
Because you're paying attention to him now.
Because now it's in my RAS. It's now part of my awareness. It's become part of my filter. It's become part of my matrix. And so what if the Teslas of your life could become those meetings, those relationships, those thoughts, those emotions? And they can by the process I take you through in the book, which is really repetitive, very simple visualizations, because, and I'll come up for air, our minds move towards what we're most familiar with, and it will find resources to prove you right. It's a belief starts as like an empty table, and then it starts finding legs under it for resources. So you will hear things, you will see things. Here's the hook. They were always there, but they were filtered out of your RAS because they weren't programmed to be important to you. What's important to you is your worries, your anxieties, your fears, your problems, your to-do list, the stuff you got to get done. So you see those things and you're oblivious to the resources around you that were always there.
There is a mixture of things that I've done this pregnancy differently than the first. And one of them is your one more. Every single time I go to the gym, I do one more rep. I was telling Weston this the other day. I do one more. Every single time. This is really weird. I post an Instagram story. I'll post one more. I've been practicing it.
I love it.
Actually, so it's wild that you called your book this, because I think I heard it on your podcast first about doing one more. And then I've mixed your method with Joe Dispenza, who I think you know.
I love Joe. He's been on 3 times. I just had him a couple weeks ago on again. I love Joe. One of my best friends.
I'm starstruck that he's been on 3 times. You might have to introduce me to him to come.
You haven't had Joe on here?
No.
Oh, that's insane. I will do that.
I've done his meditation every single day of my pregnancy.
Okay.
And in it, I've done exactly what you said, which is I've put out a frequency into the future of new beliefs.
Yep.
How important do you think it is to sit and think and meditate and go be introspective?
Big time. I do it a lot. And so what is a thought though? What is thinking? Thinking is the process of asking and answering yourself questions. That's what it is. So if you want to change your thoughts, you have to change the questions you ask yourself. So I have a whole chapter in the book called One More Question. What are the questions you need to ask yourself to change your thinking? Because it's easy to go, I'm going to change what I think. How the heck do I do this? You have to change the internal questions you ask yourself. You have a series of questions that you're regularly asking yourself that either serve you or don't. You're unconscious. They could be, what are people thinking about me? What's the mistake I'm going to make? How do I avoid pain? What do I need to be careful of? They could be all kinds of different questions. And these answers, you find them regularly. So if you're going to change your thinking, you change the questions. But I got to tell you one thing. This thing you said about beliefs, I haven't said this on any show, so I'm going to say it here. I wrote the book, and the biggest decision that's changed my family forever, guys, is that my dad decided to get sober. If my dad doesn't make that decision, I'm really sure I'm not here, right? And I've really been grateful to that with my dad in the book. Most people have a flawed belief about themselves, and that is this, that their things they're most ashamed of, their mistakes, their flaws, their weaknesses are why they're disqualified from making their dream happen or being happy. This is really what they believe. Or some shameful thing that's happened in their background or their family that's not even theirs. And they carry these bags, this BS belief around that's what disqualifies them.
It's the reason why they can't do something, or they can't qualify for something, or they're not, or they don't deserve something.
It's the very reason. And there's millions of beautiful, precious human beings walking around life like this. 3:15, 2 weeks ago, I've already written the book. I wake up, I don't do this often. I wake up in tears and I wake Christiane up. I go, babe, wake up. She goes, what? I go, someone helped Daddy. She went, what, honey? I said, Dad getting sober, that moment where he changed their life, someone helped him. I never thought about it before. In my dad's darkest moment in some coffee shop or room somewhere when he was on his knees getting ready to break his whole life apart, some precious soul helped my father. And I have no idea who they are, yet I'm indebted to them. My children are. Millions of people who listen to me are. And here's the hook. You know what qualified them to help my dad? The things they were most ashamed of. Their drug addiction, their alcoholism, all the horrible things they did that they're most ashamed of, that they think disqualified them from making a difference in the world and being happy, was the actual experiences, the actual things that made them qualified to help my dad. If they had not had all that shame, had they not made all those mistakes, had they not had their own addiction, their own stuff they had, imagine all the times that person probably drove drunk or stole money from their family to get a drug or lied, and all those things they were most ashamed of, like most people. Maybe they're not that extreme, that they thought, this means I'm disqualified from happiness, I'm disqualified from making a difference, people like me don't do this, was the very single thing in that moment where their history, their experience, their shame met my dad's need. And they connected with them in that moment and changed my life and changed my children's life. And so if they're qualified to make a difference to millions of people, that ripple effect, everyone listening to this, you are too.
Do you think that a big part, and this kind of goes with exactly what you were just saying, is the narrative that we're telling ourselves? How important is that? And I would love to know your narrative. Like, what is your narrative when you wake up? What is your narrative when you feel angry? What's your narrative when you feel depressed?
And maybe how has that changed over the years?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. That's why I love coming here. First off, yeah, we do have a story that we tell ourselves about our lives, and then we repeat that story. So what we have is we have this belief system, and then what we do is we just reinforce that with a different cast of characters and a different set of circumstances, but we get the same emotions. So as humans, we are our emotions. That's who we are. And so we have an emotional home. Even if they don't serve us, we get their emotions. So if your main emotion is like fear, anxiety, worry, anger, in any given week, no matter what the external circumstances are, even the week of the birth of a baby, somewhere in that week or so, you will find a way to get that home, those emotions again. And we get them. We become addicted to them because they're familiar. We always move towards what we're familiar with. For me, my main emotions are pretty healthy, except one, and even to this day. And that is that I really live in chaos. This is something I don't talk about a lot.
It's so funny you say that, because when I think of you, I don't think of that.
I know.
I need to hear this because I live in chaos too. So I need you to elaborate. I've never heard you say this either.
Yeah, and I have never said it really, and I think I know why you do, but I can tell you why I do. And that is that it's familiar. And so my upbringing with an alcoholic dad, every day was chaotic. Which guy was going to come through the door? Which version of him I was going to get? And so
that feels like home to you.
It's very home to me. And so no matter how much wealth I produce, no matter how many other people I've helped, no matter what it is, I will find a way. And by the way, sometimes it's been healthy that I've had chaos. I'm like, I'm going to mess it up again, and we're going to do something bigger. I'm going to mess it up again. We're going to do something bigger, right? Bigger. But it's not a beautiful way to live. And so although it may have served me at some stage in my life, this addiction to chaos, which is really what I create, like I just can't keep it calm. I can be blissful to other people. I can give everybody else that. But what I give myself the supposed gift of is chaos. And it's aged me. And it's held me back from some other really beautiful experiences in my life. And so the awareness that I'm addicted to chaos, the awareness that in spite of all the other things that I have and my emotions are pretty good, that is the narrative for me. So now what happens is my awareness of it loses its power over me. So now I'm like, I'm doing this shit again. Here I go, man. You're doing the chaos thing, you dumbass. Here you go again. And I'm almost looking down at myself above it, making fun of it. And so what I had to ask myself is this, because it's always questions. What would I need to believe about this circumstance that would not cause me to create chaos in it? And then I ask a different set of questions, and I usually can change my state. And now what I'm looking for in that situation I'm not some hokey dude. I want to achieve. I want to kick ass. I want to win. But I want to do it in a more elegant and beautiful way than I've done it before. And so what I'm trying to find in these things is the lesson and the piece that I can pull from it, not the chaotic mess. I almost literally mess things up so that I can fix them, because I can fix stuff. I used to brag. I operate so well under chaos. So I have a chapter in the book now. Stay with me. My new version, my new narrative is equanimity. There's one more level of equanimity, I call it. Equanimity is calmness under duress. And that goes with the matrix thing that I said earlier, where you slow things down when pressure happens. They don't speed things up. Most people, when it's chaotic, things speed up. And then you make decisions that you shouldn't make because things are fast, or you react emotionally. The two of you get in a fight, it speeds things up, it spirals, boom, he says something he shouldn't say. Look at you laughing at each other, right? So I've done that.
Are you laughing at me because you think this is me?
You speed things up in chaos, but go on, Ed.
Oh my God. Let's talk about self-awareness after this.
Okay, after that, we'll go there. So anyway, I want to hear your part. It's more interesting than mine, but I just want to say this to you. So for me, the antithesis of that is slowing things down under chaos. How do I get there? Equanimity, which is calmness under duress. And I'm obsessed with this. That's why it's the word that's in the book. I have a lot of fighters that I work with, but one of them fought recently, and he's a great fighter, one of the top in the world. But when he gets under duress in a fight, things speed up and he gets ragged and crazy. And it's usually, even though he's a stud, it's where he usually gets knocked out or loses the fight. And he just had one recently where the same level of duress and chaos started to happen in the fight. And he literally stepped away from the fray for a second, went into that state of equanimity, things slowed down. And he ended up knocking this guy out with one of the greatest knockouts in the history of the UFC with a leg kick right to the jaw.
I know exactly.
You know who it is?
Yeah.
And he never practiced it before. He had never practiced the kick. It's not something that was in their pre-fight training, nothing like that. But he was able to respond and pull something out of himself deep within that he'd not even practiced to have this epic knockout because of equanimity. So I seek equanimity now instead of chaos. That's the new narrative.
I will say I've met your wife before, and I can tell that she's super calm. She's very anchored, and I can tell just by outside perspective that you are, I don't want to say chaotic. You are doing a lot of things,
yes,
and she's an anchor to it.
So true.
How do you guys work off each other when you're chaotic? How does she calm you down?
Really well. That's such a great observation, by the way.
She's the right partner for you.
Yeah, you always bring that because people always go, hey, man, my spouse isn't as motivated as me. How can I get her to come with me or him to come with me? And I'm like, I'm motivated enough for both of us. In our case, I'm inspired enough for both of us. I'm driven enough for both of us.
And I would say that she's calm enough for both of you too.
You nailed it.
So she provides, in my opinion, like you need that grounding energy.
It's the exact word I was going to use, Lauren.
Yeah.
She gives me grounding.
Yeah.
She gives me grounding.
A tangent, of course, but I was reading this Harvard study, this article about people that live the longest and are the happiest, and they said like one of them was the partner they choose, like being actually truly being in love. And again, this is a tangent, but I think it is so important. We talk about it on this show all the time because it's him and her perspective about the partner you choose and the things you accept in a relationship and the person you decide to spend your life with. Because think about how much of an effect that has. Like you and I get into a business deal. We're interacting once in a while here and there, but I'm going home and sleeping with this woman every night, right? Like you would think that that's the thing that needs to be watered the most.
Mm-hmm.
But people cause sometimes they settle or sometimes they pick the wrong partner or sometimes they accept things in a relationship that they necessarily shouldn't.
That's a huge one, man.
It's
Accepting
huge.
treatment that's less than you're worthy of or just the wrong match energy-wise. So what we are is a great energy match.
Yeah.
She's very calm. By the way, I'll say one thing. She's easily happy. Whereas me, the pathway to happiness sometimes requires certain conditions to be met. Hers is almost like non-conditional or unconditional. I used to when we were young, like, come on, babe, like, come on, don't you wanna? Yeah. And now I'm like so grateful for the fact that like, she's like, I wouldn't love you more if you did this deal or this thing or the podcast crushed. I'm going to love you no more or no less. And here's what's really funny. A lot of the athletes I work with now, I catch myself saying that, hey man, no matter what happens tonight, you can't make me more proud or less proud. You can't make me love you more or less. And there's this energy that I now kind of give off to people that I associate with that I've learned from her. And so there's an easiness, a calmness. And here's what it is. Just give it to you straight up. When I was young, see, we have all these things installed in us when we're young, when we're defenseless, these software programs of beliefs and whatnot. And when I was young, my dad would show me love when I achieved. So I conflated recognition with love. Dad, I hit a home run in the ball game. Come over here. Give your dad a hug. Dad, I won the spelling bee. Dad, I got an A. And that's when I'd get love. When the absence of achievement, I wasn't feeling loved by my dad. So I went out into the world and I'm like, I'm just going to achieve and achieve and achieve. And that felt like love to me. She's the one person in my life that it's not conditional on that. It's unconditional. I actually get love. I don't get significance from her. I get love from her. And that's such a beautiful thing to know that even if I do fail, I can come home and that person doesn't love me any less. And that's been a pillar of real comfort and strength for me as I've been able to go out and achieve in the world because I know she believes in me and will love me no matter what.
And she sticks with you in the downs.
Yeah, man. Big downs.
That's
like when we had
I
no
mean,
water or no car or no house. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
You guys were showering. I remember you told us on the first episode, like in the pool shower.
Yeah, the water got turned off. I had to go downstairs. I'm out there trying to be a successful entrepreneur, selling the dream, living a nightmare. Walk down the stairs. I'd hold my brand new married to. We were at the pool in the outdoor apartment building we lived in. I'd hold a towel up and my wife would take a shower and brush her teeth. And then I'd say, babe, switch. And she'd hold the towel up. And I would brush my teeth and take a shower.
But it's so much sweeter to me that to get to where you are now. Like you have so much perspective.
Yeah.
And that's important.
It's huge. It gives you, my favorite people have a really rare combo of humility and confidence. And it's they toe that line, right? We've talked about this before. For me, the humility part comes relatively easy. It's the confidence part that I've always had to work on. And that shocks people. They're like, well, you got the whatever, you look this way, or they got jets or islands or a muscle, or I'm like, dude, the humility part, man, when you're the child of an alcoholic, you don't think real highly of yourself. It's your default position is, man, I'm ashamed. And I am like, I can't believe this is my family. And I wish I was in a normal family. So I always will carry that dude with me. I have to work on the confidence part, not the humility part. But the great people have both, right? Like self-confident people with no humility, they're going to burn out. They're egomaniacs. They suck, right? People with tons of humility, but no confidence, you're dragging them through life. You're like, come on, let's go. And they take all your energy.
Humility is really attractive.
Humility makes you curious, makes you want to grow. Like
yes.
You have a ton of confidence. Like you're gorgeous and you got this great husband and you guys are financially successful on your show and all this other stuff. But you're both of you are two of the most curious people I've ever met. That's why you're great interviewers.
You want to know the secret there? Because it's so funny that you say that, and that's what makes you great. Is what people always ask, like, how do you do a good podcast? And I go, I actually really care about what I'm learning from this person I'm bringing on. Like, if you're just there to get a soundbite or to get a question or to get a press because Ed Mylett's on the show and he said this great thing, I'm like, you're going to burn out over time. You actually have to be interested and curious about the people you're talking about. What the hell are you doing?
I agree. Totally, brother. I'm really interested. Kind of drives Christiana sometimes crazy because like, if we'll fly somewhere, people are like, do you have a car service? And I'm like, no, I got an Uber. And it's such a weird kind of dichotomy, right? The Uber picks you up with this, but I love to get in the Uber, man, and go, hey, man, tell me your story, right? Tell me your story. This last week, dude, I got to tell you this really quick. I get in the Uber. This is why I love life. I love curious people. Humans are awesome. But they're a gift, but you got to open it up. So I get in this Uber and this guy, I go, hey man, tell me your story. She's like, here we go, right? And he's like, well, I'm from Lebanon. I go, tell me about Lebanon. I've never been there. He's like, I lived in a gated community. There were Christian, Jews, Muslims, agnostics, all on my street. We would have a once a month block party. I go, come on, dude. You had a block party in Lebanon with all these different religions. He goes, yeah, now not everywhere's like that, but that's where I lived and we had to flee. I said, so why are you driving an Uber? Listen to this. I've been in the country 8 years. I have a son at Harvard, a daughter at Yale, and my little boy's going to Stanford. I'm like, get out of here, dude. You must be incredible. He goes, no, my wife is. Let me tell you about my wife. And then he tells me this beautiful story. Like, what an awesome experience for me to learn from this man. I want kids like that. I want a marriage like that. So you can learn from everyone.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is I always tell people, even of all the years we've done this show, I always keep reminding people, it's easy. I don't want to say easy. It's challenging to produce and all those things. Sure. But it's easy because we are genuinely curious in the people we talk to. So we can talk to anyone. And it doesn't matter if they have 1 billion followers or 60. We just want to.
That's not a natural trait, though. And that's okay. That's a trait that you can work on. It's like I think sometimes people think things just come naturally to everything. I try to, and I'm not perfect, but I try to work on my traits that are good. If I'm a little curious, I try to become more curious. The power of one more. No, but I think that's important to work on the trait that you're trying to achieve other than just think it comes natural to people and it's just a talent that they have.
Well, I think everything's like two sides of the same coin. So you really can't be present with people unless you have some level of confidence because most people are constantly thinking about what you're thinking about them, right? And so it's very difficult. When you're talking, they're already thinking about what they need to say next rather than just being present and listening with you. So there's an element of equanimity and poise and confidence required to say, it's actually okay even sometimes if there's some silence in between the two statements. When I speak on stage, my stand-up friends I think are the best speakers, but often they'll tell me, hey, Eddie, it's okay to have a little silence there, man. The funny's in the silence, not when I'm talking. And the point you're making, let it sit there a minute and have some silence. It's when you're with someone you really love in a car, the two of you're driving, Don't you sit in silence sometimes?
Sure.
It's when you're not confident in the relationship you have with somebody, like, I got to fill up this time with talking the whole time. So there's an element of confidence that comes with being present with people and being curious also.
Yeah, if you're sitting there, if I'm like, look, and I look up to you obviously as an entrepreneur, father, all these things, you know, and if I'm sitting in, and I say that with respect, but at the same time, if I was sitting here being like, oh my God, if I ask him a stupid question,
Right.
like I can't then listen to you. I
Right.
can't hear you.
Yeah.
That's a skill people, I mean, that doesn't come naturally. That's hard to work on.
You've obviously worked on huge business deals with huge celebrities and huge, powerful people, like huge. When you're super stressed about something, like super stressed, a business deal, like just something that's stressing you out, and you get into bed at night, what do you guys do? Do you
I have some stuff on my phone I could show you.
take
but
it
that
out
would
on
scar
her?
you.
I mean, you know, I'm sure that this has been an evolution. Like at
Mhm.
first, maybe like 10 years ago or 20, 30, whatever, you took it out on her.
Mhm.
But now what does it look like?
It's a reverse. 10 years ago, I would be quiet. And she would say, what's bothering you? What's wrong? And because I'm introverted, because I grew up in a chaotic home, I liked to retreat to my room alone when I was a little boy and just have silence and process things on my own. And I'm not good at asking people for help, even the people that love me the most. So what it used to look like is silence and distance and a disconnection. So I know what this looks like. It's a behavior. When I'm stressed the wrong way, I create distance between me and her. I don't talk. I don't touch. I'm disconnected and I'm not listening very well. So I know when I'm stressed, this is going to sound crazy. I'm going to give you a really big thing right here. I just touch her. I touch her. I grab her hand when we're laying in bed. I say, babe, come over here and lay on me for a minute. And just her touching me and her presence with me creates that connection again where I do now want to talk. And so it's actually, most things in life are physical. They're physical things we do or don't do. I would literally be away from her. I'd find myself like if we're watching TV on the couch, she's on that couch, I'm on this couch when I'm stressed. And so I've learned like, let's reverse this. When I'm really stressed, I want to pull her closer to me, actually physically closer to me. And that's typically when I'll open up. I'm not a big take it out on you person. I'm a retreat, quiet person. And so now it's just a matter of getting her closer to me. And like, I can feel that energy you talked about earlier when she's in my proximity, when she's really close to me. And so I would always tell people when you're stressed, even when you're fighting, grab her hand. Grab her hand. And now try to still fight.
We're going to see what he does.
Yeah.
When you get stressed, I'm going to expect you to grab my hand.
Are we in a fight I don't know about?
No, we're not in a fight. But I look to your wife as an example because I feel like she finesses you.
She does.
Yeah.
She knows. But I want to say this to you, even when we're going to have a difficult conversation. When you have a difficult conversation in an intimate relationship, what do you kind of do? Go, can you sit down? I need to tell you something. Or you're in the kitchen arguing, right? And now I'm like, come over here. Sit in my lap. I want to talk to you about something.
That's a good one.
And I really pull her physically closer to me because you can feel my love. You can feel my energy. Even my daughter, if something's really difficult, or my son, like they've done something I don't like, what do you usually walk in there? Hey, you did it, get it. And there's this distance. So I've learned this with my daughter. I said, sweetie, come over here. Come close to daddy. And I just get her close. I'll either grab her hand or I'll hug her. And I go, I want to talk to you about something. But I want her to feel my love and the nature in which I'm trying to deliver this thing to her, not push her or hurt her. I don't want to hurt them when we have to talk about something. And distance hurts people. Proximity makes them feel your energy and your love. So I've literally learned these strategies with my children and my wife to pull them closer to me.
It's really good advice.
Very good advice. I have a friend that I was talking to this morning before this episode, and I was telling him that we were having you on, and he was telling me to ask you something. And I think this is a question a lot of people who are listening are wondering. He is in a relationship where he feels like he wants to be the best version of himself. Mm-hmm. He wants to achieve his full potential in life, and he has high expectations. Mm-hmm. His partner is more satisfied with kind of just being average, mm-hmm. but he loves his partner, and he wants to be committed to his partner. Do you think that's make or break?
No.
And if you don't, how do you make that work? Because you're someone who's so much like, I gotta reach my full potential. I mean, mm-hmm. I think you've exceeded almost your potential. Like, it's mm-hmm. like wild what you've done.
Thank you.
So how, like, if you not having the right partner, is that okay that someone else in the relationship wants to just have an average life?
Well, not having the right partner is a deal breaker, but I don't think that makes someone not the right partner necessarily, right? And so In my case, I'm such a psycho that the truth of the matter is that like, if there was another psycho in this relationship, boy, we would be at each other. So we've talked about that already. But no, I don't think that that's the case. I think what you do need to do, though, and I just challenge him, what is it that makes her happy, though? It's not just nothing. It's not just nothing. Stuff makes her happy, things, moments, memories, whatever it might be. And we do this thing, man, it sounds nuts, but like a couple times a year, I'm like, all right, what do you want to do? What do I want to do? My stuff's always like, get a jet, get the island, make this, 10 million downloads, 100 this, 3 to that. And hers isn't. But it's funny when you think you know somebody. And then I'm like just recently, I'm like, so what would you, I'm like, if you'd asked me, I'm like, she doesn't want anything. I get her clothes, she returns them. I get her this, she goes, you know what? I'd kind of like when Bella leaves, actually not kind of, I'd like to go to Italy and go to a cooking school. I'm like, you would? Like, that's something you would really do? She goes, no, like I would really, really love to do that. And then she goes, and the other thing is this, could we do this? Could you take 2 mornings a week and just walk on the beach with me? Just 2 mornings a week. Just take a walk with me on the beach. And you just talked about this before we went on, which is ironic. And she goes, I don't have to have you do it every day, but if every 3 days we could just get up and instead of you going to work out and doing your routine and the cold plunge and all your meditation bullshit, could we just, because she does none of that. She's just like, could you just walk on the beach with me? I would just love that. And I said, yeah, I can totally do that. 100% I can do that. And I'm like, and here's what I would like you to be able to do. Because she does, and I go, would you come with me to some of my speeches? I would just like you to be there. You don't see them. You ask me how they are, but it would be really cool for me if you would sit there and watch them, because I know you more than anybody will tell me what I did and didn't do right. But at the same time, I talk about you a lot, and you don't even hear me talk about you. And it would make me feel better if you were with me and going. And she's like, well, yeah, Bella's leaving. I should probably do that. And so you'd be surprised, when you just sit down and go, what do you need? And they go, and it's, again, in the book, it's the questions we ask. If you look at your relationship, you're probably just asking each other the same questions over and over and over again. Change the questions and you change your relationship. Change the freaking questions that you ask each other and you change the relationship. And so we're starting to, here we are 51 and 50 years old. And just now we're changing. So I've been talking the same questions for 20 years, same stuff back and forth. Why aren't you more motivated? Well, why are you so motivated? Why are you that? Those aren't healthy questions. The healthy ones are the ones we're asking each other now.
That is so smart. I can't wait for Michael to ask me at dinner what would make me happy. It's a short list.
I want to talk about questions because we've touched on them a lot on the show. And I think some people struggle with what are the right questions? Mm-hmm. How do I find those questions? Mm-hmm. I'm stuck on the same questions. Is there a workshop, an exercise, a thought process that you help implement to your clients, to people you coach, where this is how you start asking the right questions?
You're going to think this is so cheesy. Okay.
Maybe not. I think this is...
Okay. I'm just going to give this to you. And you're like, just do what I'm about to tell you. What would I need to believe or what would I need to ask myself about this situation that would change my emotion about it? So what would I need to ask? What would I need to believe? You'd be amazed at how pattern driven you are. You're in this pattern of questions and just saying, what would I need to ask? What would I need? Literally, I'm no dumbass. I've been married for a whole long time. What would I need to ask Christiana that would bring us more bliss in our marriage? What do you need? I've never freaking asked her.
What if someone wants to lose weight? How would you coach them there?
Okay, I'm doing this right now with somebody. I just lost 40 pounds and I didn't lose it.
Yeah, you look, you always look amazing.
I wasn't fat. I had pretty good body fat percentage. I was just I wanted a psycho transformation. I wanted to prove to myself that I could actually transform my body. I'm a nut, right? I'm going to lose 40 pounds in 90 freaking days. Here we go. Bam. And I was already a little bit overweight and I did. I got to 177. I was 221. Now I'm 185 and I need to be about 210. Anyway, bottom line was, it was the questions that I needed to ask myself. And I asked myself, how good would I feel when I got down to that body weight? What would be the things that I need to do it? How would this change the external parts of my life? What else would be psycho that I'd be able to do much easier if I did this? And how would other people be inspired? Let's just change this. I just leverage all these freaking questions. And then I'm like, what are the resources that I need? I need to intermittent fast. I need to do caloric restriction. I need to change my cardio. And so I change it. Here's the hook. Here's the deal. It's not the events of our lives that define us. It's the meaning we attach to the event. And then that meaning is driven by the question we ask ourselves about the event. And that creates the emotion and then the behavior. So if you want to change your life, you don't have to change the events. You need to change the questions you ask yourself to give you the meaning. Perfect example. Right out here, we walked out. Let's say we're going to lunch after. Car accident, family's killed. Worst thing we could ever witness, you and I, right? So the three of us walk up, we watch a family pass away. What would we say to ourselves? Oh my gosh. Why is this tragedy happening? Where's God right now? I can't believe this. It would create a meaning of sadness and we're in a spiral. Same exact incident. This is an extreme. Same exact incident. Mother Teresa's walking with us. Her belief system of her life was that the honor of her life was to be with someone when their body ceased to exist and their soul went to heaven. Same accident. She asks a completely different question, takes a completely different meaning, and she's now in the process of the honor of her lifetime watching the soul go to heaven. So that's an extreme example, but it's not the event, it's the meaning, and that meaning is from the question you ask. So I'll often ask myself, what would I need to believe about this? My dad dying sucked. My dad's cancer for 8 years sucked. What would I need to believe about it so that it served me, and what was the good in it? I'm going to tell you something, man. For 8 years, when my phone rang, it used to be, hey, I'll call dad back. Now my phone rang, hang on, no matter who it was, it's my dad. And I'd answer that phone with my dad. My own health became more important. My own mortality became more important. My own death. Napoleon Hill says, begin with the end in mind. I never did that with my life. Now in my life, I've begun with the end of my life in mind, and I've worked all the way back. My family's more precious to me. Everything's become in context for me. My dad, I've got more admiration and respect. My dad was in the most extreme pain, bro. Extreme pain with his cancer. Constantly being offered morphine for his pain. My father would not take that morphine because it violated his sobriety. I mean, he went through excruciating surgeries without it.
Wow.
And the reason he did that is his sobriety and who he was as a man and his standard was more important than the pain he was suffering. That's a level of my dad's manhood and strength that I would have never been familiar with had he not gone through the cancer. And so there's a lot of layers of beautiful things that came from it.
I want to know what it takes to be Ed Mylett. Like, you don't just hop out of bed and, throw your shirt on and walk outside. There's things that are done behind the scenes to create the energy, the drive, the ambition. What are those tools? Like you mentioned cold plunge and sauna. I would love for you to dive into that. Just any tools that you use to be your peak performance.
Okay, so I do cold plunge every morning other than 2 days a week now. I meditate for about 20 minutes a day. I get up and hit my knees when I pray. One of the new things I'm doing is I'm kinder to myself. I'm stretching and doing yoga, which I've never done. There's a metaphor for me in the gym is just like dispensing violence, right? And that violence has actually become part of my, the toll it's taken on my body. I don't treat myself very kindly. In fact, I think the last 50 years of my life have been pretty violent with myself. I'm talking about inside. You could have done that better. Last time I left here, we did the podcast. I'm like, that was a clunker. I could have done better. I should have did this.
It was great, by the way.
I know, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just really, really hard on myself. That would
a clunker. That was like our favorite episode.
Thank you. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I walk off the stage. I've talked to a couple pastors about this. Like, I just abuse myself with criticism. And so why is that? Because my workout regimen is sort of a metaphor for my life. So now, yeah, I lift weights, but I'm actually a little kinder. I stretch. I'm more gentle with myself. I get a massage. But you're talking about real tools. I'm going to give you the big one. It's actually what I think about, Lauren. So what's made me whatever little success I've had is that I operate out of my imagination and my dreams. That's why talking about the book's hard for me. I don't operate out of my memory and my history very often. I have a whole chapter in the book called Become an Impossibility Thinker, which then makes you a possibility achiever. I operate in my imagination a lot. Like, I'm a crazy dreamer. So are you guys, right? But like, this is a thing that you do unconsciously well that a lot of people listening don't know you do a lot of. You dream a lot. First thing I did when I walked in, would you have a third kid? How would you do it? Would you do surrogate? What would it be like? Because you're already dreaming about it. You're already envisioning your future of your life, whereas most people are in the present, but they're really in the past.
This is why I love you and Joe Dispenza, though, because I would love for you to go off on this. So many people are operating in the past, and they also romanticize the past.
They do.
That's a problem too. It is people thinking, oh, it used to be so good. No, it's going to be good moving forward.
Yep. They either like that it used to be good and they live there, or they exaggerate how bad it was. And I'm not saying that it wasn't bad. I'm not suggesting that. But oftentimes the trauma in our lives is bad in the event that it happened, even the worst things that have happened to you. But the repeated visualization of it is 10 times more traumatic because you hit yourself with it over and over and over. There are things in my life like that my dad did when he was drinking, and it was horrible when it happened. But I've decided to beat myself up with it like 9 million times in my lifetime, right? So most people have an operating system in their brain that is operating out of their history and their memory. This is their frame of reference. So what they do is they repeat this history and memory with new people in different circumstances, but the same emotions and the same results. Through practice, I imagine regularly. When the past comes up, even though like the book's been hard for me, because the truth is I don't stay there very often. I don't like to recall it. It's not where I live anymore. When you're when you're a child, and even your little ones, right? Now you're going to have another one. They're so damn happy. Why? Well, I have two beliefs about that. One, they were more recently with God. That's my belief system. And two, they operate out of their imagination and their dreams, not their history and their memories. And then eventually what ends up happening is that about 10 or 11 years old, by the way, people start to operate out of an operating system of their memories and their history. I got to tell you that my dad used to say this to me, man. He would go, every time I talked to him, he'd go, at the end of the conversation, be careful. What? Be careful. It became normal for he'd meant it out of love. Be careful, be careful, be careful. What did that do to me as a little boy all the way up to I'm 50 years old. I love you, man. Hey, have a great speech. Be careful. What the heck am I supposed to be careful for? But what is that programming? People project their limited thinking and limited beliefs, even if they love us, into our software program, and now we operate. So we got to watch this. Things with your kids are more caught, not taught. Things with other friends of ours are caught, not taught. You're not teaching lessons. They're catching things, right? And so I just talked about this morning. I'm driving out here, a really good girlfriend of mine, and she's like, gosh, man, I know you're going to talk about your dad and what a neglectful upbringing you had when you were a little boy. And she goes, and my parents got divorced. That's neglect. She goes, I'm not doing that with my kids. I'm not neglecting my kids. And I love her. And I said, yeah, you are. She goes, no, I'm happily married. There's no drugs. I don't talk bad to my kids. I said, I've known you for 25 years. You're neglecting your kids. She goes, that's offensive. Why would you say that? I said, the most insidious form of child neglect is a parent not pursuing their potential and their dreams. And you're installing that, catching that into your children, that it's okay to settle for less than you're capable of. It's okay to settle for less happiness, less bliss, less success, less contribution. That's an insidious, terrible way to neglect your children. She's like, I never thought about it like that before. And I said, well, you need to start thinking about it, because you are teaching her how to settle. You are teaching her that it's okay to be average and ordinary when she knows you're great. If anybody knows how great their mama is, I won't say her name, it's your little girl. She knows how magnificent you are. And when she finally figures out that this magnificent mama of hers has settled for average and ordinary in her life, you've installed that in her and she's going to live it. She says, oh my gosh. And I think everybody else should be thinking about that too.
Something that I'm struggling with a little bit is I do have so many things that I want to achieve and so many things I want to do. And I feel like I haven't nicked the potential of what I want to do. But I also want to be a really present, good mother.
Yep.
How do you do that with your kids? I'm sure it hasn't always been perfect. What's that evolution look like?
It answers the previous question better, because I didn't completely answer that about what are some routines that I have that serve me. So one thing I do, because I am a nut, I leave my phone in the car when I get home for 30 minutes. I couldn't stay off of it. So I leave it in the car, because here's what I found out with my kids. They have an attention span too, of any age. But the minute I walk in tells them what my priority is. So if the minute I walk in, I'm on the phone. If the minute I walk in, I got a meeting. Hey, I'll be right there, honey. Right? So I want to come in. Baby, come here. Even my daughter now, you look so great. How was school? 30 minutes even. 30 minutes of full engagement. I can go get the phone again.
That is such a good tip. You're so right. They pick up immediately when you walk in.
Yep. I had a time happen I'm embarrassed by, but one time, more than one time, my little daughter, Bella, when she was 3 or 4, would walk in a room, Daddy, and I'd go, hold on, honey, hold on. And I'd look back down at my phone. I did this to her 2 or 3 times. And the 3rd or 4th time I did it, I saw her look at me. She would, Dad. And I saw her put her head down. And I told this precious little daughter of mine that was ever in my phone is more important than you.
Yeah.
Oh, what a horrible thing to do. And I remember that moment going, that's never happening again. What do I need to do? I'm like, I'm leaving the phone in the car the first 30 minutes, and I've done it ever since.
What do you, when you do take the phone out, what do you do? Like, how do you manage everything you're doing when you have kids? It's hard. Like sometimes you have to post, like there's just like stuff that you have to do on your phone.
It's your perception of time. So I have a whole chapter in the book called One More Level of Time Management. So stay with me. This is going to blow your mind. I've talked about this before, but I get into it really big detail in the book. This idea that there's 24 hours in a day is bullshit. It's one of the most antiquated, ridiculous ideas in the history of mankind. We're still measuring time the same way we did 300 years ago, when there was no electricity, no cars. If you wanted to get a message to Michael, I'd have to write a damn letter, put it on a horse. 3 weeks later, you get it. And then a month later, I get your response.
If you got it in 3 weeks.
If I got it, right? And still, human beings are so screwed up that they still measure time based on 24-hour increments as if it's a day. So about 25 years ago, I went, I'm not the smartest. I'm not the best. What is a strategy that would radically change my entire existence? It's the way I bend and manipulate time. So now my day is 6 a.m. to noon. That's a day. In that day, by the way, some days, like any normal 24-hour day, I may just screw off the whole day. But 6 a.m. to noon is a day. And in that window of day, I'm getting the amount of bliss, fitness, productivity, business, whatever. We've all had that morning where we go, I got more done this morning than I've done in 3 weeks. Well, if you can do it that morning, why can't you do that all the time? So day one is 6 a.m. to noon. And something happens around noon, clock goes off. What did I just get done today? What did I get done? What do I need to double my efforts on? What did I miss? What was the most fun? What am I grateful for? What do I got to do next? Bam, day 2, noon to 6 p.m., same thing. Contacts, meetings, bliss, etc. It bends, manipulates, and shrinks time. It sucks all the air out of the BS in our lives. Third day, 6 p.m. to midnight. And in the same window of time, I get the same thing. So now I get 21 days a week when you get 7. Imagine that over a month.
Because of the way you're looking at time.
I've manipulated it, brother, and it's that valuable. Now, because it's that valuable, a couple things happen. The world treats me differently. Because my time is that valuable and that scarce, I'm now more valuable and scarce instantly because I do that. But my accountability, the clock that goes off in my head about what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do, when I'm going to see my kids, what I'm going to do. Man, if I miss my kids that first day, imagine going a whole day and not talking to your daughter. Imagine that whole day. Well, for me, that whole day is 6 a.m. to noon. If I have not texted or talked to Bella by that time, she's getting a damn text at noon. I don't let things get away from me. So I've changed time. I can get something on Google in 1 second that used to take me when I was in 1985, hours and hours of researching something. And I'm going to manipulate and measure time the same way I did then. That is stupid as heck. So it's this construct of 24-hour days where we feel overwhelmed. It's this construct that I don't have enough of this or that. You have plenty of it. It's a false premise that you don't. It's a false premise that if I'm crushing it at work, I'm robbing my family. Never have I been crushing it at work and winning and not brought great energy into my home and more energy. Never have I been doing better at my fitness and not brought more strength and creativity to my job. One feeds the other. This scarcity idea that there's a finite amount of it is stupid, and it's not true. And if you do what I just said for 90 of the regular days you're used to, you will come back to me and go, my existence on this planet has completely been altered. Listen to me, everyone. You will be a completely different person when you begin to run mini days as opposed to these stupid 24-hour days. Please try this. Please give it like 90 of your normal 24-hour days and come back to me and tell me, what if you stacked it up over a year, 5 years, 10 years? Hey, Ed, how are you kind of like pretty fit and you got a lot of financial stuff? Looks like you kind of pray. You got a pretty good family life. Your mind's still growing and expanding. Because I run these days. If these were 24-hour days, I would be smoked. But I got way more time in my life than the average person.
I got a question in a different lane. We just went through obviously a crazy 2 years, and then it's followed by another crazy turn of events, and now markets in shambles and people are freaking out. It's we'll see. You are somebody that I would say very tactical, very inspirational. You're teaching people how to be better versions of themselves. How do you deal with the negative corners of the internet or the naysayers? And how do you speak to them when they come at you and say, Ed, that's great for you to say, but you got a jet and you got a house, you got all this success. And like, that's good. That's your story, but like, that's not mine.
It's a fair question too. By the way, it's fair for them to ask me. So one, I don't buy into what I call collective psychology. When I see a collective psychology forming, I resist it and I try to be contrarian, like what's going on in the market, like what's going on in the world. So many of my friends are like, hey man, the world's over. What's going on in Ukraine? And by the way, it's horrible what's going on in Ukraine, but I'm telling you, this is the end of the world. I'm like, that's interesting because during 9/11, people told me don't go for it in business anymore. It's not going to matter because there's going to be terrorist attacks in Los Angeles every 3 weeks forever. Wrong. And then I remember when I was a kid in high school, it's like, why go for it? Why make your dreams come true? Because there's going to be a nuclear war between Russia and the United States. And that wasn't true either. And so is the world coming to an end? Probably not. And so do I believe in that collective think? No. Do I believe that we're all each other's victim and each other's enemy? Nope. Do I believe there's some victimization and enemies in the world? Absolutely yes. Do I believe that we all hate each other? No. So I don't buy into all of the collective psychology. That's the most dangerous spiral of average and ordinary is to think like everybody else. Now, in terms of people that are haters.
I love that, Ed. Right? It's so funny.
It's true though.
We call it groupthink.
Groupthink sucks, right? And so now in terms of haters, if you think you're not going to pay attention to it, you're wrong. And so I actually have developed, by the way, you don't have a powerful emotion that they hate that you would have for them. Isn't that you hate them back or it isn't that you don't care. It's that you feel sympathy and empathy for them. That's the last thing they want. Also,
if you notice, if you acknowledge them, they apologize.
They sure do.
Acknowledgement.
They're saying, listen, we know this, hurt people. But what is anger? The other side of anger, and I know when I'm angry, I'm afraid. It's fear. Anger is the manifestation of fear. So when someone responds to me with anger, they're afraid. They're fear-based. and I feel sorry for them and I want to reach out. They're saying, I'm invisible and I can see you and this sucks. And you know what? And the minute you see them, like you said, they're like, I'm sorry. I didn't even think you were going to read this. Like, I didn't even mean it. You caught me in a bad moment. And so for me, when I get hate, by the way, a lot of the haters I've had in my life, I don't have a lot on social, but I've had them in my family. And they're just afraid. Now, if you have people in your life, parents, siblings, or a spouse who's really sort of pulling you back, can I just help you help them? What are they really afraid of? They're afraid you're leaving. That's what they're afraid of. At the deep-seated, all the way back fear of them doing harm to you or telling you to settle or what's wrong with you, why are you so into money or your career, or what happened to you? I've had all those things said to me. They're afraid you're leaving. Even my parents for a while were afraid they were losing me, and I'd have these new friends and these highfalutin things, and we're going to lose our son. In an intimate relationship, if you're really changing and they're kind of pulling you back, they're afraid you're leaving because you're growing and changing. And actually, here's the truth. The person they know currently is leaving because there's going to be a different you. Now, it's the same character, the same morals, but their intuition is accurate. And in some cases, rare, you are actually physically going to leave. And it's this sense they have that you might change and leave that's causing them to pull you back. And so it sounds hokey, but I actually have learned to respond with some empathy and some sympathy, and in some cases, love back to them, because that's what they're feeling.
What do you do? This is a micro question, maybe. What do you do when you're so busy, you have your schedule, you are crushing it at work, you got your family, you're praying, your fitness, when someone text messages you in your life and needs something and wants an immediate response? How do you set boundaries around your time with people, with friends, with family members?
Yeah, there's an autoresponder on my text and on my voicemail that says that I'm returning all my messages during a certain window of time. So there's already an expectation for it.
Wait,
the day.
There's an autoresponder for text?
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I have it on my phone. So it says I'm going to be getting back to you. I have to hit it, but it responds back, and I hit it back and it says, listen, I'm returning all my messages between 6:30 and 8:30 tonight, and I'm done. And I just have that done. It's like automatic, because there's no way. I did it driving out here. A really good friend of mine driving out here today. I was late. There was traffic. I think I even called you and said, hey, I'm running late for this other thing. And he's like, hey, I need advice and I need it really, really badly. Now, if it was, there's an exception on this. If it's my children or my spouse or my mom or my sisters, there's an exception group. But even my closest friends, it's like, hey, listen, I'm returning calls then. I'm going to get back to you, but I can't get back to you in time. I think most people are afraid you're not going to get back at all, rather than have to get back to them in 3 minutes. And so probably what I got to call him back about, I can answer it at 6:30. I don't have to answer it at 8:30 when he texted me. And I got to tell you, you just said something. I wish people had a greater appreciation of when to text somebody.
Oh, please go off, please.
Like, isn't it amazing? Even your team or like friends of yours, it's Monday at 9 o'clock. Do you know what Mondays look like for me in my life?
Please.
What's
Look
that?
at my text messages.
Look at, you have 314 on there, right?
Please talk about Mondays at
hard.
9. I feel like I got hit by a Mack truck. It's everyone's to-do list. Go off.
No, it's like, hey, it's Monday.
There's a time.
It's Monday. Don't send the text now. Wait till like Tuesday at 4:30, right? Like,
be strategic. Read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
yeah, or just read the room, read the world. Or can you wait till 2:30 so I can get through all of the shit I got to do Monday morning? Is it amazing? It's like they were waiting you could tell Sunday night they did some planning. It's like, text Ed Mylett Monday. It's like the first thing on their list. I'm like, one, I don't want to help you. I don't want to get back to you. You're buried in a mountain of crap. Like,
what about the text messages that are literally 6 paragraphs? That's like an
or
email.
the one that start out
on
with
there right now, dude. I woke up this morning. This guy always does it. I'm like, dude, this is 11 hours. How about worse than that? The dude who sends the 90-minute voice text that you can't even read. You're like, look, the phone keeps blocking you anyway, stopping you. Get to the point, dude.
Or the 6-page text message that talks about how they feel stuck. And I want to say, stop spending 6 hours on text message and allocate the time differently.
Thank you.
Or when someone says, I know it's not the time, but.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you already know it's the time. Or I hate to bother you, but no, you're bothering. By the way, I'm just going to tell you something. I'm strategic when I text people. Like, I really am. I'm like, when are they likely to get this in the best state possible to give me the best response? So be like a strategic texter. Like, when am I going to get the best of you? I'm getting the best of you at 5:45 a.m., right? That's not happening, and you're not going to get the best out of me Monday. And by the way, if it's Saturday at 2:30, I'm probably into 9 tequilas. So like, don't text me with something really important then either. Like, think through when you're texting me what you need. Be strategic when you're going to get the best or most immediate response.
Or the ones that's like, I never do this, but.
I love that, dude.
You know what? I'm going to pull that clip and I'm going to blast it on every single. It's so true.
I'm actually maybe going to sponsor that post.
Yeah, be strategic with when you text people. It is very important because you're coming in asking for their time.
Right.
And not everyone can be so reactive to everything. I actually have a question too on this. You said you text back from a certain time to certain time, but how do you have the energy after your full days to then go text back, call back, email back?
Because I use that time because of my schedule today, but sometimes it's like 1:30 to 2:30.
Okay, so
I
you
create
have
an
time.
hour. Yeah, I create an hour. And by the way, like there's days where like I'm still getting back to somebody not during that window, right? There are days, but like by and large, and here's what's happened. I've trained people how to treat me as a result of this. So they kind of know when I text Mylett, I'm going to get a text back that's going to tell me when he's going to reply to me. And so I've actually over time, people kind of know when they message me. To me, I like when someone gets right back to me. I really do. I appreciate when someone gets right back to me. But there's also this little element of me like, are they that not busy? Are they that like not doing that many important things? Like they just literally got back. I'm talking about my closest friends. I'm talking about in general, right? So there's even some strategic positioning you're doing by just waiting a little bit to reply to people. I hate the idea. I know what you're thinking because I have this. I hate the idea of having things to do later. I'd rather just knock it out right now. I get all that. But now what I'm doing is I've now set a structure of my life where I'm a responder and a reactor rather than the dictator of terms in my life. So if you're constantly responding to incoming texts and emails all the time, what do you think happens in the rest of your life? You're responding and reacting. You've set a context for your life rather than you taking control of how things are going to happen.
You know what's so funny though about training people too, and this, I'm going to say this the wrong way, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I think there's a way to text and put yourself in a position where you're somebody that gets an immediate response. And it's because you're a selective texter that rarely abuses the system. So I try to put myself in a position where if I text somebody, it is so rare and thoughtful that like, oh, that doesn't happen. So like, I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like you're training people in the reverse where it's like.
It's actually very true of you when you have texted me.
Yeah.
Or you before. By the way, I texted you.
Because I don't, because I think.
I did change my phone number.
Yeah.
This is why the tangent started. I changed my phone number because we moved to Texas. And then I only gave my phone number to a select group of people. Which
but you know what?
You'll get my phone number.
Oh, wow. Thank
because
you.
it's,
You're going to get my phone number.
I'm not on the list.
I'm going to send you a text right now.
Okay.
It's about not abusing the system. So I hope that if I ever text you, like, he's probably being thoughtful about why he's reaching out. And there's probably a reason that he's doing this. And it's not just like, hey, I'm like, here I am just wildly texting.
It's a really good example because you do that. And it's very rare when you do it. And
I try to do it with everybody. So
I just sent you a text. Changing my phone number though was really nice because I was able to like start fresh. But the text conversation needs to be had more because it is such a big part of our lives. And I feel like the etiquette has just been completely and utterly abused.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever been explained. I think the technology rolled out and we just started doing it and then it just sort of snowballed and got out of control. And like, I also think it's not just respect. Like I said, I think there's a strategic way to do it where you're likely to get a response and a better response from somebody than you would if you just do it right. And how impulsive is it to go, like that's an impulsive move. Like you wouldn't do this in other areas of your life. If you were in a restaurant that was crowded full of people, you wouldn't just impulsively walk over to everybody's table and go, hey, excuse me right now. Sorry to bother you. I don't normally do this, but blah, 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 blah. You wouldn't do that.
Question mark, question mark, question mark,
Right.
question mark.
We've got
Ed's
the, like-
next book's going to be called The Power of Learning to Text.
Right.
It's like the boy who cried wolf of texting, right? If you text it so many times, like then you might actually send something important and then it gets ignored.
buried. It gets buried.
Okay, who needs the power of one more? Is this something that everyone can implement into their life? Is it for people that are just starting out? Give us who needs this.
Okay. I know you're not supposed to say this, but I literally wrote the book for everybody.
I knew you were going to say that because I think everyone needs the power of one more.
Yeah, listen, it's a heavy book. I'm just going to be honest with everybody. If you want a light book that's not like heavy tactic and strategy, because even today we've covered like some, but like it's a very tactical, very heavy book, a lot of details. Some chapters will really resonate with you and some of them won't. And so I wrote them on how to be a better parent, how to be a better business leader, how to be happier, how to be more successful, how to produce results, how to change your identity, I have a chapter on faith in the book. So there's a lot of things in this book that will resonate with you at different times. But I wrote it literally thinking I'm a coach of a team. I'm a CEO of a company. I'm a startup entrepreneur. I'm at a job that I want to leave and start a business. I'm never going to leave. I'm happy in my career, but I would like a better relationship. Or I have all of that. I want to transform my body. How do I transform my body? And so I did this like kitchen sink book. And here's the truth. Most people that listen to this kind of know me. I'm not doing another one anytime soon. I'm 51. This is what I know, the strategies I use to be happy and successful. I got to live another 10 years to write another book. I put what I know. The older I get, people go, what do you know? I go, I've just literally learned how little I know. The older I get, it's like there's so much I don't know. My mind changes now, which I love that about me, actually, that I'm willing to change my mind and, change my perspective on things. But I wrote this book to honor my dad, and that if something did happen to me, that my family and the people I care about, like, this is what this dude knew at this stage of his life. So maybe in 10 years I'll do another one, but this is not one of these things where I'll come back on the show, but in 2 years there won't be another book. This is it for me for a while.
I think that this book makes so much sense because your podcast, I've told you this, like when I go to your podcast, I love hearing you interview people, but I love your solo episodes. There's episodes that I've listened to 3 times, and I know I'm not the only one because Weston told me that too. One of our best friends who loves you.
Thank you.
So to me, this is like 10, 20 solo episodes in one.
Yeah, I think it is. I appreciate that. It's pretty deep, man.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I'm very, very excited about this book, The Power of One More, The Ultimate Guide to Happiness and Success by Ed Mylett. Ed Mylett is one of my favorite podcasters.
I mean, listen, it might be a record 4 times. Might be a record. I don't know if we're going to have anybody else this many times.
Thank you. Well, I hope we have a 5th.
We will have a 5th. I think next time though, I gotta be honest, I want to bring your wife on. I do. I want to hear that. I want to hear her perspective.
You know, I appreciate the timeline of this book of when you've written this. Sometimes you get the memoir from the 30. Like if I wrote the one right now, it's too early. Like I gotta put in the miles, right?
Yeah.
And people will write in, so write a book. But I think it's so great that you waited as long as you have and had the success in the life you've had to now share it, right? Like,
thanks, brother.
Because sometimes, you know what I'm talking about, like
I do, yeah. I know this stuff works. This is not like theoretical for me. This is stuff that I know works.
The chapter that I'm most excited to read, just so you know, is the chapter on time.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's deep.
Yeah, that one I feel like I'm going to have a highlighter out.
I think you will.
Let me ask you this before you go.
Okay.
Will you be doing an audio version?
Yep, did it. Just finished it. So there's an audio version that they can get.
That's a lot of work, huh?
Oh my god.
It's your voice.
Can we just that's a lot of work. The audio people are like, oh, you're a podcaster. The audio version of my book, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's not as a lot of work, but in advance, everybody, I'm not totally sure I'm great at it. Just so you know, I don't so I read it like a speech. Do I read it like I wrote it? But I knocked it out, and the editor told me that it went well. But it took me like 3 weeks and multiple different sessions to do it. So yeah, that's another reason I don't want to do another book, because that was really hard and it's not easy for me.
I think it's a mistake when the people use the robot guy voice.
Yeah.
No, you can't use the robot.
You gotta be in your voice. Yeah. You gotta be in your voice.
Can they buy the book right now?
Yeah.
On Amazon?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere you get books. And there's also a website that goes with the book called thepowerofonemore.com. It's got like some tools in there that'll enhance the experience of the book, some extra stuff in there. So yeah, go get it.
Our audience is the perfect buyer of this book. I think everyone should go buy it. The Power of One More. Ed Mylett, thank you for coming on. Where can everyone find you?
First, I love you guys. Thanks for having me. I always love my time with you. Anywhere, Ed Mylett, EDMYLETT, Instagram, my podcast. I got a little YouTube going too. So
little YouTube. He's one of the most inspiring guys I know.
Not that you need our help, but for our audience, go crank this thing to the #1. Go crank it up there.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed.